Oxygenated carries the oxygenated blood to the oxygenate carries sorry supplies the blood to the heart muscles. Oxygenated blood or supplies the blood to the heart muscle. It may be oxygenated or nutrients rich blood ni heart muscle ki supply chese those are called coronary artery. What is the seventh question? Please read seventh question. ఏ వాల్వ్ చెప్పండి లెఫ్ట్ ఏట్రియం నుంచి బ్యాక్వర్డ్ ఫ్లో కానీ లెఫ్ట్ ఏట్రియం అండ్ లెఫ్ట్ వెంట్రికల్ ఏ వాల్వ్ mitral valve. It is also called mitral valve is also called bicuspid valve. Mitral valve is also called as bicuspid valve. Next one. Which blood vessels carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to lungs? Heart నుంచి lungs కి ఏ blood vessel? Pulmonary what? Pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery which carries carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to lungs. ఎక్కడి నుంచి left ventricle నుంచి right ventricle నుంచి pulmonary artery carries CO2 rich blood, oxygenated blood rich blood to the left to the lungs దగ్గరకు తీసుకెళ్తారు. What is the functional unit of the kidney responsible for the filtering of the blood? ఒకసారి ఇది కాలేదు మనకి. యా ఇది కాలేదు. నెక్స్ట్ which structure store the urine before the excretory? ఇది కూడా కాలేదు. Where are the kidneys located? కాలేదు. Which organ is responsible for production of bile? చెప్పండి. Bile. Liver is the production of bile కి help అవుతుంది. What is the primary function of alveoli in the lungs? Exchange of gases. Which part of the heart pumps the oxygenated blood to the body? Left it left it left ventricle, not the atrium, left ventricle. Body అన్నారు కదా, బాడీ అన్నాడు కాబట్టి లెఫ్ట్ ఏట్రియం నుంచి లెఫ్ట్ వెంట్రికల్ నుంచి ఏం ఆరిజినేట్ అవుతుంది? Aorta. Through the aorta, the artery sends the blood, oxygenated blood to the body parts. Next, which blood vessel carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart? Lungs నుంచి heart కి ఏ blood vessel carries? Pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. Oxygenated blood అన్నాను కదా, ఇందాకే చెప్పాను. This pulmonary vein carrying oxygenated blood from where? Lungs to heart. Is it clear? ఇంతేనా? Any doubts? 3 questions చెప్పలేదు కదా మీకు? Yes, these 3 questions should be eliminated. ఈ రోజు చెప్తాను. Any doubts? ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా వీటిల్లో? Do anyone have any doubts? ఎవరికైనా ఏదైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా ఈ క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ లో? Otherwise, is it clear? Okay then. Today I'm going to discuss with the renal system. The renal system, in the renal system or urinary system, we have pair of in the renal system or urinary system, in the renal system or urinary system. In the renal system or urinary system, we have pair of kidneys. We have pair of kidneys. Then after the pair of kidneys, this pair of kidneys is connected by tubes. Is connected by tubes are called, or they're called ureters. The tubes are called as ureters. The pair of kidneys was connected by tubes called ureters. Ureters leads to a bladder is called as urinary bladder. It's called as urinary bladder. This urinary bladder leads to urethra. Urinary bladder leads to urethra. What is the medical term for kidneys? Kidneys యొక్క medical term ఏంటి చెప్పండి? Renal or nephro. Renal or nephro. Next, after the kidneys, ureters of the urinary bladder. What is the medical term for urinary bladder? Cysto. Cysto is a medical term for urinary bladder. Cysto is a medical term for urinary bladder. Cysto is a medical term for urinary bladder. Okay, pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, రెండు కిడ్నీస్ ఉన్నాయి, రెండు ureters ఉన్నాయి, ఒక urinary bladder ఉంటుంది, ఒక urethra ఉంటుంది. Urethra. Okay, you should not be confused with these terms. Ureters. What are ureters? Ureters. What are ureters? The ureters are nothing but a tubes which connects, what? The tubes which connects kidneys with kidneys with urinary bladder. Kidneys with urinary bladder are called what they are called. Kidneys with urinary bladder is called as ureters. What is urethra? A tube which connects to urinary bladder to out of the body. Urethra. You should not confuse with these two terms. Ureters. 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 Urethra. UrethrA. A tube which connects urinary bladder. Urinary bladder. Urinary bladder with urethra. Urinary bladder to with urinary bladder is called urethra with outside. With outside of the body. It goes to the outside of the body. It's called as urethra. Urethra and urinary bladder. First, I'm going to tell you, discuss you with the urinary system. Urinary system contains pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. The main primary function of urinary system is to eliminate waste materials from the body through the urine. The eliminator of waste materials. The eliminator of what? Waste materials from the body through the urine is called as urine. The major function of urinary system is nothing but the elimination of urine waste materials from the body is called as urinary system function. The function of urinary system. Okay, wait a second. ఒకసారి చూడండి. I'm coming within a minute. Okay then. Urinary system contains a pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and one urethra. Okay, the urinary system, what is the major function of urinary system? Eliminate the waste materials from the body through the urine. Urine ద్వారా ఈ waste materials eliminate చేయడాన్ని urinary system అంటారు. The major organs. Am I audible? వినిపిస్తుందా మీకు? Yeah. The major organs are called as kidneys. Kidneys are nothing but nephro or renum. Nephro or renum. A pair of kidneys present posterior. What is meant by posterior? Which side? Back side. The posterior means back side. Posterior means back side. Pair means two. Two. A pair of kidneys which are present between the T12 to L3. T12 is nothing but thoracic vertebrae. The vertebral column no. These are the bones. T12 to L3. Lumbar and thoracic. The vertebral column lumbar and thoracic in the T12 to L3 region of abdominal cavity. Abdominal is nothing but stomach region. This is present in the T12 between the T12 to L3 in the abdominal cavity. That's called as kidneys. The organs are called kidneys. These are all the retroperitoneal organs. All the kidneys are called as retroperitoneal organs. The organs which are attached to the peritoneum. Peritoneum attached to those organs are called retroperitoneal organs. Peritoneum is a membrane covering layer around the abdomen. Abdomen లో ఏదైతే కవరింగ్ లేయర్ ఉంటుందో దట్ కవరింగ్ లేయర్ ఇస్ కాల్డ్ as peritoneum. That's why the kidneys are called as retroperitoneal organs. Retroperitoneal organs. The right kidney is slightly situated down as compared with the left kidney. The right kidney was slightly down as compared with the left kidney. Left kidney కంటే right kidney అనేది కొంచెం కిందికి ఉంటుంది. Sorry, the right kidney is situated slightly down as left kidney. Why? Because right side, which is the organ is present on right side? What is the organ present on right side? The organ is called the largest gland, liver. Due to the presence of liver అనేది రైట్ సైడ్ లో ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి the right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney, which means the right kidney అనేది left kidney కంటే కొంచెం కిందికి ఉంటుంది. It is present downer than the left kidney. As compared with the left kidney, the right kidney is slightly downer than the left kidney. Okay, then the structure of kidney was bean shaped. What is the structure of kidney? Bean shaped. The kidney was divided into two parts: outer renal cortex and inner renal medulla. See here, I'm going to tell you detailedly. The kidney was divided into two parts. Those are called, outer part is called as renal cortex. It is called as outer renal cortex. It's called as outer renal cortex. The outer part of the kidney is called as outer renal cortex. Outer renal cortex. The inner part of the kidney. What is the inner part of the kidney is called as renal medulla. The inner part, the inside structure of the kidney is called as renal medulla. Inner renal medulla. The kidney is divided into two parts. The outer part is called outer renal cortex. Inner part is called inner renal medulla. Inner renal medulla. Outer renal cortex and inner renal medulla. Inner renal medulla. Outer renal cortex and inner renal medulla. The kidney was divided into two parts: outer renal cortex and inner renal medulla. Inner renal medulla. Now this inner renal medulla, the inner part was divided into a pyramid like 8 to 18 pyramid like structures. These pyramid like structures are called as renal pyramids. What they're called? Renal pyramids. The pyramid like structures are called as renal pyramid, which are present on inner renal medulla. Inner renal medulla. These renal pyramids, each renal pyramid are fused to form. These renal pyramids are fused to form to produce the calyx called minor calyx. What is it called? Minor calyx. The renal pelvis, the group of renal pelvis are fused to form minor calyx. What is it called? Minor calyx. These minor calyxes are fused to form. This group of minor calyxes are fused to form single major calyx. What is it called? Single major calyx. Single major calyx. This single major calyx leads to a structure is called as renal pelvis. What is the structure? The renal major calyx leads to renal pelvis. Renal pelvis leads to tube called ureters. Ureters leads to urinary bladder. Urinary bladder leads to urinary bladder urethra. Urinary bladder leads to urethra. Urinary bladder leads to urethra. Okay, again I am telling. The kidney was divided into outer part is called, the outer part of the kidney is called as outer renal, hmm, outer renal cortex. It's called as outer renal cortex. Outer renal cortex. The middle part of the kidney. What is the middle part of the kidney is called? Inner part of the kidney is called as inner renal medulla. What is it called? Inner renal medulla. It's called as inner renal medulla. This inner renal medulla contain 8 to 18 pyramid-like structures. Do you know pyramids? Egyptian pyramids. A pyramid-like structures are called, what they're called? Renal, renal pyramids. What they're called? A pyramid-like structures are called renal pyramids. Renal pyramids. These renal pyramids are fused to form. These renal pyramids are fused to form minor calyx. Minor calyx. This minor calyx is fused to form. Am I audible? Yes, no? Yeah. These minor calyxes are fused to form single major calyx. This major calyx leads to renal, what is it called? Renal pelvis. This renal pelvis leads to a tube called, what is the tube? Ureters. Ureters leads to, ureters leads to a bladder-like structure called urinary bladder. Urinary bladder leads to a tube like called urethra. A tube called urethra. Is it clear? Here, the outer portion of the kidney is called renal cortex. The inner portion of the kidney is called as renal medulla. The inner medulla region contains 8 to 18 renal pyramids. 8 to 18 renal pyramids. These renal pyramids are fused to form minor calyx. These renal pyramids are fused to form what? Minor calyx. These renal pyramids are fused to form minor calyx. The group of minor calyxes fused to form major calyx. The single major calyx leads to renal pelvis. Renal pelvis with the medical term for the renal pelvis is pylo. Pylo is the medical term for renal pelvis. The renal pelvis sends the kidney from ureters to urinary bladder to urethra, urinary bladder to urethra. Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear? Yes. Then nephron. What are nephron? What are nephron? Nephrons are nothing but a structural and functional unit of the kidneys. The cells of the kidneys. The cells of the kidneys are called as nephrons. These are all the microscopic structures that filters the blood and produce the urine. Okay, the nephrons which filters the blood and produces the urine. Okay, the nephrons which helps in producing of blood filtration as well as production of urine. That's called as nephron. Do you know what are the structural and functional unit of the kidneys? Structural and functional unit of the kidneys ఏమంటాము? Nephrons unit. Cells. The cells of the kidneys are called nephron. Each kidney has approximately 1 million nephron. 1 million అంటే ఎంతో తెలుసా? How much 1 million? 1 million is nothing but 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs. Do you know structural and functional unit of the lungs? Alveoli, very good. Alveoli are the structural and functional unit of the lungs, which means the cells of the lungs are called alveoli. The cells of the kidneys are called, what they're called? Nephrons. The nephrons are called cells of the kidney. Cells of the kidney. Each kidney has approximately 1 million nephrons. How many? 1 million nephrons. Each kidney has 1 million nephrons. Okay, the structure of nephron. The parts of nephron extended from renal cortex to inner medulla. I will show you the structure of nephron. In this, I will show you the structure of nephron. What is the structure of nephron? The exact structure of nephron. Here, the nephron. First, heart. Heart has how many chambers? What are they? Right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. Heart has 4 chambers. From the left ventricle, the origination of what? The largest artery is called aorta. From left ventricle, the aorta was originated. From the aorta, there is an artery is originated which supplies oxygenated blood to the kidney. What to reach blood to the kidney? Which artery? Which artery? It is called as renal artery. It is called as renal artery. Now tell me, inside the blood, what are the substances present inside the blood? In this blood, what are the contents which are present inside the blood? Blood cells. Blood cells like what are the blood cells? RBC, very good. WBC, platelets. Plasma. What is the plasma includes? The plasma includes water, water like H2. It's called as H2O. Water, plasma proteins. Yes, plasma proteins, salts, salts, nutrients, nutrients like what? Nutrients like glucose, nutrients like glucose, and the last one are called next waste, waste materials. Waste material. These are all the structure which are contents which are present inside the blood. In this bloodstream, in the renal artery, it receives this renal artery. From the renal artery, it is goes to kidney. Kidney. The smallest artery which carries this blood is called as afferent arteriole. What is it called? Afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole. Now the structure of nephron. This blood is carried to the nephron. The structure of nephron. I'm going to show you that structure of nephron. What is the structure of nephron? The nephron has the structure like the first capsule-like structure is called as Bowman's. What is it called? The capsule-like structure is called as Bowman's capsule. A capsule-like structure is called as Bowman's capsule. What's it called? Bowman's capsule. And the capillaries-like structures which are present in this Bowman's capsule are called glomerulus. What they're called? Glomerulus. A cap-like structure which are present around the Bowman's capsule. Around the Bowman's capsule is called as glomerulus. Is called as glomerulus. This was the structure of nephron. The first structure is called as glomerulus. What they're called? Glomerulus. Glomerulus. This glomerulus leads to a capsule-like structure is called as, what is a capsule-like structure? I said Bowman's capsule. It's called as Bowman's capsule. This Bowman's capsule leads to a tube-like structure. A tube is called as proximal convoluted tube. It is called as PCT. PCT. What is PCT? Proximal, proximal convoluted tube. It's called as PCT. Proximal convoluted tubule. It's called as PCT. Then this PCT leads to a loop-like structure. A loop-like structure is called as loop of Henle. What is it called? Loop of Henle. A loop-like structure is called as loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. From up to down, which order? Up to down. Which order? Ascending or descending? Up to down. Descending loop of Henle. It's called as descending loop of Henle. Descending loop of Henle. From down to up. Down to up, which order? Which order? This loop of Henle is called which loop of Henle? Ascending loop of Henle. Ascending loop of Henle. Then loop of Henle leads to, after loop of Henle, there will be an DCT. What is meant by DCT? Anyone? Distal. Distal means away from. Distal convoluted tubule is called as DCT. Distal convoluted tubule is called as DCT. This DCT leads to a duct called collecting duct. What is the duct-like structure is called as collecting duct. The duct-like structure is called as collecting duct. Collecting duct. This collecting duct leads to minor calyx. What it leading? Minor calyx. Minor calyx leads to group of minor. Yeah, very good. Very minor calyx leads to major calyx. Major calyx. This major calyx leads to renal pelvis. This renal pelvis leads to ureters. Ureters leads to urinary bladder. Urinary bladder leads to The last part is called as urethra. The last part is called as urethra. The urinary bladder leads to urethra. Urinary bladder leads to urethra. Okay, now I'm telling the structure. Entire flow చెప్తాను వినండి జాగ్రత్తగా. From aorta, the blood is comes to renal artery. From the renal artery, it comes to afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole, it goes to this blood is the oxygenated blood moves to the oxygenated blood was moving into the glomerulus. What are glomerulus? Glomerulus are nothing but a tiny particles which helps in filtration of blood. Okay, those are called glomerulus. What they're called glomerulus. They are called as glomerulus. From the renal artery, afferent arteriole, from the afferent arterioles to it comes to glomerulus. They comes to glomerulus. The blood is comes to glomerulus. The filtrate moves inward. What is the small particle? See here, the small particles like what are the small particles like water, salts, glucose, and remaining waste materials. Waste material. The small particles like water, salts, glucose, and waste materials are moving into the where they are moving into the from glomerulus fluid. They are moving into the Bowman's capsule. From glomerulus fluid, they are moving into the Bowman's capsule. Why? See here, if it is your hand, okay. If think like that, this is a hand. This is a hand. If you close a hand, okay, okay, take your hand and like this. Okay, make it like this. Okay, make your hand like this. And if I throw a stone between the if I throw a stone between this your fingers, between your fingers, a stone will not go inside. Stone will not go inside. If I throw sand, then in the దీంట్లో sand ఉసుక వేస్తే వెళ్తుందా? ఈ sand will go or not between these gaps. If I throw a large stone between your fingers, the large stone won't go introduce inside your fingers through the fingers. It does not protrude inside the fingers. But if I use sand, it will go or not? Yes or no? It will go na. Sand యూజ్ చేస్తే మనం శాండ్ తీసుకొని శాండ్ ఫింగర్స్ మధ్యలో వేస్తే వెళ్ళిపోతుంది. అలాగని పెద్ద పెద్ద స్టోన్స్ వేస్తే if you use the large stones, it won't go. Obstruct of the stones, obstruct of the same likewise. The small particles like water, salts, glucose, waste materials or goes into the small particles like goes into the Bowman's capsule. The remaining RBC, WBC platelets are the large particles remaining into the bloodstream. They are remains into the bloodstream. They remain into the bloodstream. But the small particles like water, glucose, salts, waste materials or goes into the where? Into the capsule-like structure is called Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule. After the Bowman's capsule, this filtrate is moving into the move. This filtrate was moving into the PCT. This filtrate was moving into the PCT. What happens in the PCT? The PCT, there is a glucose. Our body, the need of glucose. Is it or not? Our body, there is a need of glucose to our body. To get the energy, we need the glucose. Again, what happens in the proximal convoluted tubule? The reabsorption of what? Reabsorption of glucose. The glucose and some amount of water was reabsorbed in the which tubule? The tubule called the reabsorption of in the proximal convoluted tubule, the reabsorption of glucose will happen. The reabsorption of glucose is happening on proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. From the proximal convoluted tubule, this filtered with the amount of urine and salts goes to loop of Henle. What happens in the loop of Henle? In the descending and ascending loop of Henle, there is a reabsorption of water and salts. What the reabsorption? Reabsorption of water and salts. The reabsorption of water and salts is happening on where? Happening on loop of Henle. The reabsorption of salts, sodium, Na plus, potassium salts, and water. The water and salts reabsorption is happening on loop of Henle. From this, what is there now? What is there now inside the filter? Some amount of water with H2O with what is the remaining structure with remaining parts? Done with the salts and glucose. What is there inside the filter? Water plus water waste material. The waste materials like urea. What is the waste materials? Like urea. The major waste material which was produced inside the body is urea. Okay, it goes to the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. What happens in the DCT? What happens in the DCT? In the DCT, in the DCT, there is an hormone was present. That the hormone is called as vasopressin. Vasopressin. It's also called ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Diuretic hormone. It's called as ADH. The ADH is the hormone which is present on DCT, distal convoluted tubule. The ADH is the hormone which is present on where? Distal convoluted tubule. It is present on distal convoluted tubule. What happens with this ADH? Anti-diuretic hormone. What happens with this ADH? Anti-diuretic hormone. Okay, this is the ADH. This ADH is called as anti-diuretic hormone. What is this? The function of this ADH is nothing but if you are in the dehydration, if we were in the dehydration, what is meant by dehydration? Dehydration is nothing but lack of water. Lack of H2O or water inside the body is called as dehydration. When we are in the dehydration, there is a release of hormone called vasopressin from the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. There's a release of hormone called DCT from the distal convoluted tubule, where there is an absorption of H2O, where there is an absorption of H2O, water. The urine లో ఉన్న వాటర్ ని ఫిల్టరేట్ లో ఉన్న వాటర్ ని కూడా రీఅబ్జర్ప్షన్ చేసుకుంటుంది with the help of hormone vasopressin, with the help of hormone vasopressin. Maximum scenarios, in summer scenarios, we will get the urine like dark and pale yellow color. The dark and pale yellow color urine is due to the acidic urine is due to the vasopressin was released into the DCT when the body lacks water. Body ఎప్పుడైతే dehydration లో ఉంటుందో the vasopressin was released by the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. The remaining water from the urine filtrate లో ఉన్న వాటర్ ని కూడా రీఅబ్జర్ప్షన్ చేసుకుంటుంది. That is a function of DCT. From the DCT now with this amount of water and waste materials, or excessive salts goes to the collecting duct. From collecting duct to minor calyx to major calyx to renal pelvis to ureters to urinary bladder to urethra. See here how this the system works. First we will eat the proteins. The proteins like egg, proteins like we will eat the proteins. The proteins like eggs, chicken, mutton, dals, anything, paneer, anything, the protein. The protein goes to first mouth. Mouth lo emoutundi mastication. It happens chewing. Mastication, mouth leads to pharynx, pharynx leads to the tube called which tube? Yes. Yeah, esophagus. The proteins leads to esophagus to stomach. Stomach it mixes with HCl. HCl to mix అవుతుంది storage అవుతుంది. It's after the storage it goes to duodenum. Small intestine part called duodenum. What happens in the duodenum? The pancreatic amylase, the like trypsin, chymotrypsin. Yeah, carboxypeptidase. These proteins were mixes with pepsin, chymotrypsin, and carboxypeptidase, pancreatic enzymes, and it mixes with the enzyme. The digestion will happen. Due to the digestion, the small peptide bonds were produced. Peptide chains was produced. Peptide chains. These peptide chains are moving into the, or moves into the peptide chains was moved into the through the blood they moved into the absorption blood capillaries. Through the blood capillaries, it moves to the liver. What happens in the liver? Inside the liver, first ammonia was produced. Ammonia. Do you know ammonia? We use the crops. From the crops, we use the ammonia to kill the insects. This ammonia is more dangerous, toxic and dangerous. Ammonia అనేది toxic and dangerous. This ammonia was converted into urea. How it is converted? Urea. This ammonia was converted into urea with the help of CO2. This ammonia was converted into urea. Again, urea through the veins. It comes to this urea comes to inferior or superior vena cava. Inferior vena cava because the liver is present below the heart. Inferior vena cava to which atrium? Right atrium to through the tricuspid wall ద్వారా it goes to tricuspid wall, to the tricuspid wall it goes to right ventricle. From the right ventricle it goes to pulmonary wall, through the pulmonary wall it goes to pulmonary artery to blood capillaries, the exchange of gases, external respiration, blood capillaries to again it goes to external, after external respiration again it goes to pulmonary. The waste material like urea goes to pulmonary vein. Through the pulmonary vein it reaches to left atrium. From left atrium to it reaches to left through the which wall? Bicuspid or mitral wall it reaches to left ventricle. From left ventricle to it reaches to aortic wall. Aortic wall through aorta. Aorta to which artery? No, no, no. I'm asking, I'm telling the urea, waste material. Urea is a waste material. Which artery? Renal, renal artery. It goes to renal artery to afferent arteriole, afferent arteriole to it goes to, the urea goes to the nephron. Nephron structure, first structure is called, the capillary is like structure called glomerulus. Glomerulus leads to where? Bowman's capsule, the waste material Bowman's capsule. This Bowman's capsule leads to proximal convoluted tubule. Pre-city leads to loop of loop of Henle. First descending loop of Henle, then ascending loop of Henle, then loop of Henle leads to DCT. DCT leads to collecting duct. Collecting duct. Collecting duct leads to collecting duct. Very good. Minor calyx. Minor calyx leads to major calyx. Major calyx leads to renal pelvis. Renal pelvis leads to ureters. Ureters leads to urinary bladder. Urinary bladder. అర్థమవుతుందా మ్యామ్? Urinary bladder leads to the last part of the renal system is called urethra to out of the body. The waste material is goes from the out of the body. It starts from the proteins which starts from the mouth, which the chicken, mutton, which uses the mouth. It goes to first liver. Liver it converted into ammonia to urea. Urea was the waste material. It has to be removed. Removed through what? Removed through the kidneys. Removed through the kidneys. Okay, this is the structure of the entire chart. I connected with the which systems? Renals. I connected with the first digestive system, followed by cardiovascular system. The respiration is also happening, internal respiratory system, then followed by renal system. We're done with the fourth system. I connected this entire with the fourth system. Entire with the fourth system. See here, I said kidney has two parts. What are they? Outer renal cortex, inner medulla. Now this renal artery comes to the 1 million nephrons. I said how many? 1 million nephrons. All the nephrons or Bowman's capsules or 1 million means 10 lakhs are present on cortex region. The Bowman's capsules and glomerulus are present on cortex region. The structures like PCT and DCT. Okay, PCT loop of Henle are present on the medulla, in the medulla like pyramid structure, pyramid. Then leads to collecting that to minor calyx to major calyx to renal pelvis to ureters to urinary bladder to urethra. 1 million nephrons are present on renal cortex. This artery goes afferent arteriole. This spreads the entire blood here, entire blood. The filter moves into the glomerulus. Is it clear? Is it clear? Everybody, is it clear? Yeah, please take the screenshot. ఒకసారి మీకు ఏదైనా డౌట్ ఉంటే ఇది స్క్రీన్షాట్ తీసుకోండి. Take this screenshot. Is it clear? Done? Yeah. Okay, if you need the chart, take the screenshot of chart also. Done? Done? If the interviewer asks you renal system modify, you have to say like pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. Kidney was divided into outer cortex and renal medulla. Inner medulla contain pyramid-like structure called renal pyramids. 8 to 18 renal pyramid. Renal pyramid leads to minor calyx leads to major calyx leads to renal pelvis leads to ureters leads to urinary bladder leads to urethra. Okay, again the structural and functional units of the kidneys are called what they're called nephrons. The cells of the kidneys are called nephrons. The structure of nephron, which includes glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, PCT, then followed by loop of Henle, descending loop of Henle, ascending loop of Henle, then followed by DCT, distal convoluted tubule, then followed by collecting duct. Collecting duct leads to minor calyx, major calyx, so, then followed by renal pelvis, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. Is it clear? This is about the entire renal system. Filtration గురించి చెప్పండి అంటే if all the filtration of the blood, the urea like waste materials moves into the up to the blood renal artery. It moves to the small particles like water, salts, glucose, and waste materials moves inside the Bowman's capsule. After the Bowman's capsule, the glucose was reabsorbed in the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, as well as then the water and salts was reabsorbed in the where lymphatic, then followed by during the dehydration, the vasopressin was a hormone which was produced by the home distal convoluted tubule, which helps in reabsorption of water from the filtrate. Then the waste material with the some amount of water and salts, excessive salts goes to the collecting duct. From the collecting duct, it reaches to minor calyx to major calyx to renal pelvis to ureters to urinary bladder to urethra. Then the pair of ureters which are present on the kidneys. This pair of ureters which are attached to the kidneys. This ureters has a sphincters which sends the kidneys to urinary bladder. This sphincters which are preventing the backward flow of the urine. Sphincters are like valves. Once the urine reaches from the kidneys to urinary bladder, the sphincters won't allow the backward flow. Then urinary bladder. Where the urinary bladder is located, anterior or posterior? Urinary bladder. Kidneys are present on posterior. Urinary bladder was present on anterior. Front side. The urinary bladder was present on anterior side due to the fill of urine. Due to the filling of urine, the contraction of urinary bladder will happen. What is meant by contraction? దగ్గరికి వెళ్తుంది. It goes inward. Contraction of urinary bladder causes the urine is goes into the where the urine was goes into the urethra. The urine was goes into the urethra. The contraction of urinary bladder. These are the ureters. Sphincters are present. Ureterovisceral sphincter, which prevent the backward flow of the blood, backward flow of the urine. Then the urinary bladder the filling of urinary bladder leads to moving the urine. Contraction of urinary bladder leads to the urine is moving into the urethra. Urethral question. The urethra was two types: male urethra and female urethra. The urethra was two types: male urethra and female urethra. The main function of urethra is to transport the urine from the urinary bladder to outside the body. Outside the body pumping. Male urethra is a longer and female urethra is a shorter. Male urethra is longer ఉంటుంది and male urethra has two functions. What are the functions? It is a carrier of both. Male urethra is a carrier of both sperms as well as urine. While the female urethra only carrier of female urethra is the only carrier of what? Urine. Urine మాత్రమే carry చేస్తుంది. The female urethra which only carries urine. But the male urethra is carries both. Am I audible? Yeah. Sperms and urine. This is about the entire renal system. And tomorrow I will continue the session of diseases and processes of renal system. Okay, today I will share the PDF of renal system. Please go through with the renal system PDF. Any doubts on today's session? If you have any doubts, please ask me now. Any doubts? Any doubts? Any doubts? Clear? Yeah, carry on. Shelina Bhanugata, do you have any doubts? Shelina Banu, any doubts, ma'am? Do you have any doubts? Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you everyone. Tomorrow we will meet.